Hello! This time I have my unmute timing a little bit better today with unmuting so that way I can say hi as I wave. Alright, let's... Last second adjustment on music volume. So that seems a little bit loud. Just double checking my volume on that. That's still a little bit loud. I feel like sometimes that's a problem having an in-line volume setting for my headphones. So I'm able to adjust it, but I might not realize that my system volume's a little high. Which, actually, that is a little bit high. Bring that down a notch. Which is why I had to turn that down so much. Alright. Just a quick readjust for the volume, make sure that we're all good. I think that might still be just a touch louder than I talk. I wanted to have some fun, whimsical stuff for today. And right now, this is blown out just a bit. Quick adjustment. Bring that down. I did not adjust my curtain. Apparently my camera's decided, oh, we want to give you a low battery warning when we were at 2 bars yesterday, so that did not do so well with standby time. Alright, so here we are with Wonderland. We have color slowly taking over the page, which I knew would be developed over time. So I'm not worried, not upset about it. It's slowly shaping up. I'm gonna shove the water jar out of the way a little bit so I can be a little closer to centered. As usual, I like to give you a quick tour. So there we go. We're on day 11 with this watercolor challenge so far. Today's prompt is Caterpillar, which I am particularly excited for. That's one of my favorite characters. I think it's because my family had lived in Greece at one point, and we always had a hookah collecting dust in the basement. So I think that's why I resonated with the caterpillar a bit more, is just being familiar with that from my childhood, just sitting around collecting dust. Let's grab my gel here. I have the caterpillar already sketched in pretty well here. I'm just adjusting this line for his tail overlapping the hookah a little bit. I want to make sure that it looks like that these objects are actually interacting with each other. I want it to be very well layered and integrated. And then I'm just pulling off a little bit of that graphite so it's not so dark. I sketched him pretty lightly, I think. So I just need to adjust the hookah itself. That went up a little bit darker when I started sketching that over. And we have some faint lines to indicate the smoke coming from it, as well as from the caterpillar himself. I have most of the lines coming up over here. And this track is a little more than I like right now. We'll skip ahead. Another case of me just grabbing a playlist based on the general theme. And that track really kind of built up a bit. There we go. The next track's going to be a little more chill, which is what I want. I want stuff that's a little bit more in the background. I don't want it so calm that you're going to go to sleep. But I do want it to be kind of whimsical and fun. Alright, so I'm just lightening the background where the smoke is. It's not really going to be too relevant as far as today's painting session because I haven't done a lot of background yet. I do plan on adding some subtle detail back there, so we're going to be mixing up some neutrals to go ahead and start indicating this enoki forest that will be blending into some birch trees and more deciduous landscape. The main thing is I want to be working on a caterpillar. Okay, we're still a little bit bright here. We're gonna move up just a touch and start zooming in on our caterpillar. And thank you so much for joining me today. You want to give a shout out to my subscribers. Thank you. I hope this has continued to be an interesting series as we're getting Wonderland put together. So you can faintly see a couple caps of enoki over here. These are the some of the shorter ones further off in the distance, so this actually should be a bit thinner, more narrow. So wanted a little bit more definition in this area. Because the trees can be pretty vague. I can just kind of do a green wash and pop in some shadows. And I think that's pretty easy to help convey depth there. But over here, where it's a giant pile of mushrooms, it's I don't know. I feel like I have to sit here and define more of them. Which these details should be pretty faint being back here. So it's just general indication. So I'm going to leave most of that rough, and we're going to just kind of paint in some lines to go ahead and help with some of that indication of depth here. And my brushes are kind of squished up on the side here. Here we go. I was wondering why that was lopsided. I had a brush under my my painting board here. So I really did like the Tim Burton take on the caterpillar being more insect-like as opposed to the tenniel style. It's interesting to see where I break with tenniel on some of these pieces. So let's see. So my question about him being a sticker is, do we want to go ahead and do just the caterpillar and the hookah as a sticker, or the caterpillar, hookah, and mushroom? So I'll leave that to you guys and see if we get some comments to pop through. And regarding my usual second screen using my phone, there we go. I've had those software updates prompting me for a few days now. Okay, well, my phone is no help today. It's still putzing around with updates, so in the interest of not having the battery drop out in the middle of me putting in some detail, I'm going to just swap that out right now. I'll just give you guys the quick be right back message. Ooh. Eject on that battery is strong. Springing off my desk today. Alright, and we should be back. Alright, everything's good. Except for right now I need to find that battery, but I will do that after the stream. Yeah, you know, I was giving hope to this one, and some of these songs are a little bit too much for me. I think I'm going to turn that down a touch more. Alright, so we're all set with Caterpillar. This is one of those where I am quite tempted to go ahead and slide this closer to me, but then it would be hanging off my desk to be at a comfortable spot, so the painting board itself would be off my desk. Probably slide it forward an inch or so. And then I'll just get re-centered. And hopefully that's good for detail. And just double check this light. Alright, that's good. Okay, so let's get some color. I'm thinking of going with a bronze tone for the hookah. No, not a bronze, brass tone for the hookah, which is a little bit more on the cooler green side, which another reason for that is because of how far back he is. Generally, as you're making a composition, things that are further in the background have less detail and they are generally cooler toned. Also, this wasn't even specifically in keeping with that for purposes of this illustration, but I really like doing some turquoisey blues and greens for the caterpillar. I think that makes him a very, kind of calming and interesting character. We might add maybe a pop of purple. We're not going with natural colors. This is loosely based on the design for a swallowtail caterpillar. As far as the stripes and dots, I didn't draw any dots in because I'm going to just paint them. And I should probably shut up and start painting. Let's see, we'll do a couple dots in here. I did go ahead and pop on my reading glasses already, just to help me with seeing the detail this far away from me. Kind of doing a every other one with the dots. And apparently I forgot to mute Facebook earlier. Notifications. And that's my reminder that I didn't switch between my active stream and one moment, please. I appreciate the reminder, thank you. It's definitely handy to have reminders. I feel like I have the memory of a goldfish anymore. Let's see, we want to go, I think, fairly vibrant with the caterpillar. I think I'm going to go towards some phthalo blue red shade. Let's cool that off a touch. I don't have a lot of detail here, and I want to make sure that I'm balancing the blues so that they will be different. Once I have that extra detail here, we're going to go a bit deeper in color here, but I still want him to have a nice bit of pop. It's just vague ideas of where I'm going. And still bending that makes it a little cooler. It's the phthalo blue turquoise and phthalo blue red shade. It's kind of going back and forth to get a nice color. That's actually still a bit not the color I'm looking for. We're going to lay that down for our initial glaze, I think. I'm going to switch over to the Sterling Studios silver number 1. Because we are back here with so many tiny details. Yeah, that's not as cool as I wanted it. Alright, so still playing with the mixture. This time, tilting it a little further with the phthalo green blue shade. This is one of those times where probably just phthalo blue green shade would have been perfect for a nice cyan tone that's a little bit deep. And I'm also assuming that these spots are pretty dry. Yeah, I had a very good idea as far as what I wanted the caterpillar to look like, but for color, I'm kind of... Let's go ahead and do a quick test. Right, so I think that blue's in a good spot. I'm gonna grab a touch of the green. I'm just seeing if this pattern works together. We have the green spots. And then do I want to go with a different green? Those are likely to blend, but that's okay. I'm just trying to get a quick visual idea what I want to do for that pattern. And apparently my system has dropped some frames for the stream. So that's fun. Let's go see what's going on with that over on Twitch. Yeah, it says I'm offline. Right, so it looks like my software is reporting so many drop frames that the stream on Twitch has actually dropped off entirely. So I guess I'm going to stop this recording and reinitiate the stream, and then I'll have to go ahead and stitch these videos together. We'll see if that works. Oh, no, it says that this is streaming live. Alright, let's double check. Okay, it looks like it just picked up on its own. Yep, we're drop frames detected. So our live stream is probably going to be pretty garbage today. But I will go ahead and upload the full video of what I'm doing right now. It's terrible. I'm going to put a quick notification up that is having some issues. So while you're here, you're going to see the be right back message. Just while I put that notification up. Because anyone else who's trying to see the message live, we want them to be aware that looks like Twitch is being a little cranky today. And it'll be just a second here while I go ahead and finish that up. Which, okay, so that even that's going slow. It might actually be network issues since that's going slow. Fun stuff. Alright, so instead, I'm just going to keep rolling with it. Okay, so, quick test for caterpillar. So, test number 2 for the pattern. I want to stay pretty close to blues and greens. And that wasn't very strong. Everything's just mixing together, so that's helpful. What I get for trying to rush. And more drop frames. Awesome. Yep. So what we're going to do after the stream is I will actually just upload this video in its entirety because this is recording fine on my system. I'll go ahead and just upload that when we're done. Fun stuff. Right, I'm going to let those spots dry a little bit longer on the caterpillar. I'm still a little, undecided as far as those colors. So I will jump to something that I do have decided, which is that mushroom. Just stick with a lot of varying tones. So this is one of my new favorites. This is Deep Scarlet. And such a wonderful orangey red. Very gentle around the caterpillar. And correcting that line just a touch. So I'm going with this for my base wash because it is a little bit muted. I'm not worried about this side where I overlap the stream just a touch. I'll go in with a deeper shadow there. And I'm probably going to glaze over with a little bit of a crimson to cool off the edges. So we'll go in here with a bit of our Quinburnt orange, just with a touch of blue from yesterday, the Indian throne blue. I'm keeping that mix slightly on the warm side. It's just to help convey a little bit of depth over here. Do the same for these. I'm going to soften all these edges in just a moment. Including touch underneath. Could have added some frills to a couple of these. I might do that later. It's one of those, I might actually break out some gouache and play with it. Okay, so those were already drying a bit. To work the edges just a touch. This brush can hold a surprising amount of water. Sometimes it's like, I've already dried you. You're not quite as dry as I wanted. Yeah, for as long as these mushrooms have been here, I'm surprised I didn't draw some gills earlier. As far as shading on all of them, this is a combination of actual coloration that they would have as they're developing and help imply some form. I find newer mushrooms tend to be a bit lighter And then more developed. I like that little dip there. The pigment sits there and gives a impression of the mushroom surface is uneven. So like this would be a little bit of a higher point, and this would dip down just a touch. Alright, so for our brassy area, we're going to go, strangely enough, with the rich green gold, which we already used for the spots on the caterpillar. And just because we want to make sure that we lay down a little bit of a cool tone to help to adjust that, as opposed to the warm tones that we used in the defining form for the key. Alright, and this brush is a little more wet than still like for such a tiny little spot. So at this point, I am grabbing a touch of neutral tint with some quinacridone burnt orange. And this is kind of leaning this mix a little bit cooler, and that's so we can start implying a little bit of form on the mushrooms around the caterpillar. Find a lot of objects that appear white in nature have very subtle tones to them. And we're doing a little bit of negative painting in between these mushrooms. Now here's where I need to be a little more careful. We have the smoke, unless I want to do that with an opaque paint, which I think I will. I'm going to paint right over this graphite, even though I generally prefer not to have my graphite lines painted over, unless they're going to disappear for the most part. Going through, I'm very gentle about his antenna. Probably should paint his antenna because I'm pretty firm that I want them purple. We go with the Carbazole Violet for them. Maybe with a touch of the Indanthrone Blue. Right, so at this point, I'm going to stop right about there. Because these shadows will be changing, because by this point they're starting to turn into birch trees, like these two. So I'm okay with a light wash there, but I want to go in with a cooler tone of color, so we'll probably just grab the neutral tint by itself to help indicate that the setting is changed. Birch trees tend to read to me a lot cooler than the warmer tones that you tend to see with mushrooms. I also wanted to, like I said, change the tones from here to up here. This is the quinacridone burnt orange and indanthrone blue for this mix, and then this is quinacridone burnt orange and neutral tint. Helps give just a subtle hue variation to help indicate that these are different areas. I don't want everything to just run together being the same. I will probably add some really rich mossy tones and very dark earth colors along this edge here, just to help push that as far as being different from the beach area. I may go ahead and pop in some shadows in that mushroom if it dries far enough today, which we're already past a half hour. It's been an interesting stream already just because of what's gone wrong. Jeez. Network issues, man. Alright, I want to do some detail. We're gonna go back with our silver brush number 1, which was hiding from me. Got too close to the drawing board. Alright. Trying to remember what color earlier amanitas are. Yeah, they actually seem a little bit more orange. I'm just laying down a quick base with the quinacridone burnt orange. And then I'm going to glaze that red later. Just one of those popping into other places to put in what details that I can. Which kind of goes against me using cooler tones. That was the whole plan, and keep messing with these mushrooms when they're not even today's prompt. Let's move back over where we're supposed to be. It's fun for a moment to go ahead and add some more color into Wonderland. I'm actually still not certain of what color for a caterpillar, so this might turn out to be terrible. And that's a risk you take sometimes. I'm gonna lift some of that pigment from his face. Going back over the face with water. I don't want to remove all the pigment, but just want to lift enough where you can tell where his face is. It seems either this current track is much quieter, or the playlist I found is a short one. This claims to still be playing, but it's not. Move it along. There we go. A very green caterpillar currently. I don't know about you guys, I think he's kind of cute. I should try pulling a little more pigment off this face again. And I've gone right over the eye. And that's alright. I'll fix that with the bleed proof white. Great, so let's fill in the space around the dots. I'm going to go in a little paler than the test bits of pattern I was doing would imply. Grab the phthalo blue turquoise, which might not show up very well, and that's okay. I know that most of this detail is going to be lost visually, And in between these areas where you can see spots, there's these really nice bold stripes of a deeper color. We want to make sure that the caterpillar has some time to dry before I put those in. We're gonna give the face a little bit more time to dry. I think I'm going to do the stripes with the same purple that I'm going to use for the what looks like antenna. It's one of those, going to leave the mushrooms alone. They're such a fun part to paint, but I'm going to try to leave them alone because they are actually a later prompt. Now my phone should be behaving by now. Should be able to see the prompts that we have coming up. Yeah, number 28 is mushrooms, so I'm going to leave the mushroom forest alone. At this point, there is still more detail that needs to be done there, like deepening those colors and adding detail to the mushrooms that are acting as I guess like a little climbing path for the caterpillar to get there. So I'm going to... I'm actually tempted to go ahead and lay in the initial colors for the bases of the mushrooms, because then I can actually spend time and you can see me put the details in with the bleed proof white, and I can jump between there and the Enoki forest. I can see where we are at time. I need to wait for that caterpillar to dry a little more. I'm going to start adding in the hookah. I already did just the slightest touch of the rich green gold to help give that more of a cool tone with the brass. I'm doing a watery mix of the raw sienna. And this will just help give us some color. I don't expect this to be the only wash that we do over here. I'll put this in. Go ahead and get the other part of the hookah. I didn't put the hose in. I figure I'll just go in and do that with a deeper color. I think most of the time they're done with like a braided type of hose. And with that being wet, and the caterpillar also drying, we are going to jump back over to mushrooms. Even though I won't be. I'm going to leave the detail alone. We're just doing the base washes. So I'm going to tip this one a little bit more pyrrole red at the top. because this one is still pretty new. I'm rinsed off the brush, and I'm just going to go over the edges to let the color be able to blend out a bit. I'm pushing the pigment just a little bit. We're also going to tilt this big mushroom teeny bit cooler. And that will be just in the shadow area. We'll go in with some Pyrrole Crimson, one of my favorite reds. Wait, a little too much water. That's okay. Should get a separate paper towel for leaning on the work at this point. This one's pretty well saturated with water sometimes when I'm dabbing off the brush to do a drier wash. And my brush just skipped a little bit to do a dot up there. We're going to leave it alone. I don't want to mess with the main wash. Might go over the side a little bit deeper later. I'm giving the brush a quick rinse. And we're going to soften this edge. And same for the side. I'm gonna try to do that right-handed. We'll see if that'll work. I'm gonna give the caterpillar a little more time to dry before we start doing all that purple detailing. I am slightly torn. I think the phthalo blue-red shade mix that I did earlier would be a wonderful, like, deep contrast. Yeah, I think I will go with a deeper blue for the stripes. So because I do want this to appear pretty saturated and deep. I did add a touch of the anthraquinoid blue. Some brands call it anthraquinone blue. The color will probably pop up in the ocean too. That's alright. Definitely need to go a little deeper with this hookah. And I should be able to go back over and tap those lines in because this is pretty dry. And I think I could actually go into a couple of spots with a little bit more of the rich green gold. At least on my camera. No, my camera on my main streaming screen. A couple of these spots seem a little bit light. Probably fine-tune some details later on in person. Off camera. I'm looking forward to adding those gills in later. That's part of the fun for me is with the amanitas, like we'll be popping in some shadows and then bleed proof white on top of that to make up all the spots on our amanita. It's one of those, you certainly can take your time and do all of those details, like paint around all of the spots with the red. In this case, I was just not going for it with the scale of this. If this were like a 5x7 of this scene, which I might be tempted to do, then go ahead and make a big version of the scene. I might do that. I would definitely leave space around, but because it's so small, I want to make sure that I have a nice smooth wash going. Alright, so we'll go in with a bit more of the quinacridone burnt orange. Go ahead and put the edges of these mushrooms in. I noticed that most of the amanitas are actually quite warm along the edge. I don't have to stick with realism, but for me, when it comes to mushrooms, I like to have them with a basis in reality. And these are such a iconic mushroom when it comes to pretty much any fairy tale, let alone Alice in Wonderland. So it would feel wrong for me to have those be something else. There's so many amazing looking mushroom varieties out there. Realizing how crazy some of these streams probably sound. It's like, oh yeah, I want to go cool with these details. Inserts orange based tones on these mushrooms instead of cooler tones. I can't help it. I'm particular about the colors of these details. A lot of this is based around what do I think would be cool for stickers. And I'm going to leave that red shadow alone, leaving the mushrooms alone. No more details. I have something left to do for that day's prompt, even though I'll probably expand mushrooms into the other scenery around because of the Wonderland landscapes being one of the prompts that didn't get as much love. Everything was kind of a mess, and I didn't have too much nailed down for that initial concept. Now more shading for the hookah. We're going to go in with this cool brown tone that I have. This was already sitting in my neutrals area of the palette, but it looks like it is quinacridone burnt orange with more neutral tint. And we're just going to be glazing over here. That is not quite the tone that I want. It'll be alright, but I'm just going to lighten it a touch. I think it's a good value. Not quite the color I wanted. I knock that back just a touch, so that way I'll glaze over it and develop the color a little cooler where I want it. Oh wow, we're already at 3. Alright, so as a last glaze, since the caterpillar is pretty well done, I'm just going over the whole surface of the hookah with a bit more of the rich green gold. I tried to leave a little spot for a highlight. I think it might have been overrun because this mix is a little watery. I'll just pull a little bit of pigment from that area. And let that be nice and bright to contrast. I didn't add any shadows here because the shadows would be on the mushroom. I'm trying to leave the details for the mushrooms prompt. So we have a pretty good idea of our caterpillar. And I'll add in the hookah when everything's dry, and you'll be able to see that when you tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow's prompt, which I should have read when I had the list up earlier, is hat. This should be a fairly fast prompt. I might go ahead and pencil in the March hare. He's a later prompt, but I might give him a hat for the tea party scene. So we'll see how this table keeps changing and the days coming ahead as the rest of this composition is getting nailed down. So, it's been fun as always, and keep on painting.